So, we're gonna try this recording again because I didn't like the audio from the previous one. But I'm gonna do a little bit of a explanation on how to take up space in UMG when you know that your layout has nothing in it, but you're trying to keep to the right size of containers. So how does something take up space when there isn't anything loaded in there dynamically yet? This will make more sense if I go to this, imagine like I have this middle area that's for this icon loadout, and if I go in here and I turn off, this was on, I'll turn this off, I compile and save, and we go back. Now, the problem is that this shifted to be in the center, and it shifted to be in the center because that's where the anchoring is. But maybe I want it to be up here and then it to have empty space for this bottom row, for instance, as a thing that is pretty common. So what you can do is you can change the anchoring to just hide the back one and then put these guys to left, same in here. This will be funny to look at. Yeah. So now assume that you're loading in items like this and then the empty one here. So in the anchoring you could change it so that this guy goes up here at the very top, and then usually what I do is I'll just remove all of this, the strange positioning that usually Unreal will do when you click and drag stuff, and I just need to change the alignment here, the alignment of Y to be 0 so that it starts flush at the top. And what you can see here is now it'll actually grow this from here and expand this direction. So if I were to hide my second row and compile and save, I go back to here, see it's still left this part empty, so it's going to grow from this, going to grow from the flower. I don't know what to call this thing. It's going to always grow from where the flower starts. So the more of these you add, we could even add another row. It's going to then grow that way. But sometimes it's handy to actually have something in there. So say for instance, if I were to delete this, and say we don't have anything in the second row yet, and let's just say this container also has a background that is a nice indicator that the content will be in here. So if I did this method with the anchoring up here, if I were to put in a background, and I already wrapped this vertical box in an overlay, so the background is going to fill the entire container, and we just tint it so it is not this, and we give it the opacity down. So it's still not, it's, the container size is still thinking it's pretty small. It doesn't think it has that extra row, so of course then the background looks like it's stuffed up. And what you can do, instead of like having weird size things with your canvas, you could try to do this and then try to force a size on this thing like that, and then hope it fills. Again, I always size the content, and the content thinks it's this big, which is fine. We can totally work around that. And the easy way to do it is to also put in a spacer. Spacers pretty much do exactly what they say. They take up space, and they're a great way to force a minimum height to your layouts that's not using a size box, which can do the same thing, but this is much simpler, less taxing, less bells and whistles. And let's say the minimum height's around here. Let me just show the other one to get kind of close. Where our minimum height would be, it would be like, maybe right around there. So 670 it looks like. you had a Photoshop file, you know, you could have actual like Photoshop file at 9060 Pi. You could actually see this. Let's do like 680. What 690? It's a little wrong. 690. There we go. So now, even if I hide the second row, the spacer is taking up 690 pixels height-wise, which means that my container thinks it's for sure minimum 659 height-wise. Again, you could do this with a size box, but I generally always go for the simplest widget because if that can do the job, then why do you need all the extra calculations and extra things from the other widgets if you can do it with a simple spacer? So now when we go back into this guy, I forgot to save it, but the guy with all the rows off, but now you can see it's gonna take up space with those, and then we could slowly add in you know, some of these, and then your layouts don't change when you're dynamically showing more of this, etc. And what you can also do is set a wrap box. So wrap box is pretty easy. If I were to just replace this guy with a wrap box, and I'm gonna drag all my other ones into the wrap box. Delete my horizontal, I don't need you anymore. And set an explicit wrap size. And you could do something like that where we for sure have 5 going across and then it'll wrap further down. And then it pretty much does the same thing. So it'll have like 5 units across and then down. And you've essentially made yourself a nice way of handling if you don't have enough. Right, so our wrap box haven't hit the wrap size limit, so it's not wrapping yet. But because we have a spacer, it's actually taking up vertical height in the layout. And voila! You'll have a nice background and a layout that you can dynamically add stuff into, and it doesn't like pop the layout because it's suddenly growing in container size. And hopefully that helps.